super loyal, holding matrimony. Everybody loves a happy ending, that's an allegory. This is not a pipe dream, author of my own story. La-di-da-di-da, take my time.
Welcome back to Screaming Creativity. I'm Rob Reilly. Joining me today is an award-winning creative director and technology strategist. We'll talk about those awards at some point. He's a serial entrepreneur who has founded multiple companies, including the world's largest golf website and mobile golf game. I've got a great golf story for you. He recently produced a first-of-its-kind short film, Critters, whose imagery was entirely generated by OpenAI's DALL-E. We want to hear about that. And he's currently a creative specialist. Interesting. I've never heard that title, creative specialist. Is that correct?
Yeah. It is creative specialist. No one knows what it means. I'm not sure what it means. I think when we were just debating what do we call my role, they're like, well, what do you specialize in? I'm like, creativity. They're like, great, you're a creative specialist. And that's how it landed.
I like that. He's currently employed as a creative specialist at OpenAI, a leading AI research and deployment company. We're going to talk about OpenAI because I think people know it, but don't really know all the things that are going on, amazing things that are going on. But first, I want to start with, are we going to be attacked by robots, Chad? Is that coming? Are robots coming to take us all?
No, I don't believe the robots will. I think it's more like Her, if anything. And that
the movie Her,
which I actually believe has aged very well, where at some point we might not be as interesting as we think we are. And these systems will be able to outthink us. And that's where it's going to get fascinating because we will not be able to keep up. But I don't think destruction would be their intent at that point. I think it would really be about, they're going to go to a whole nother plane.
Yeah, Daniel Hume, who's, I don't know if you've met Daniel, he is the head of our AI division, the CEO of Citalia and the founder of Citalia. He said that by 2030, it's going to be like having a professor in your pocket.
Yeah.
Which is scary. Some professors are not that smart.
Who also knows you as well right now as the social media networks know you, but can communicate with you as if they are truly your friend. And that is where it's going to get very surreal very quickly.
I love it. AI for me now, our own WPP Open, I use it every day. I am the number one user of it, according to the data. But all kidding aside, like, it's changed my life creatively. It's totally reinvigorated me as a creative. I'm doing way more writing, way more content development, way more art direction design, way more problem solving. So you're a creative guy. How did you start this journey to OpenAI? Like, what was the first creative outlet for you?
Well, before I even knew what the term or the job existed, a creative director, I always thought that is what I wanted to become. And
how early are we talking?
I mean, back in the days of, literally preteens, I was just fascinated with the notion of there is a career out there. And a couple of things hit me. I grew up in Southern California, so I grew up going to Disneyland, and I remember asking my mom at one point, I'm like, hey, who builds all these robots that are in like Pirates of the Caribbean or some of the other?
Right. You knew it was a robot. You knew it was some animatronic thing.
Yeah, you could tell.
But I couldn't. I thought it was a real person.
But I was like, does someone get paid for that? Does someone actually? Is this someone's job?
You're a preteen, 13 maybe?
Yeah, no, more like 8. I was just fascinated with this notion that there are people out there whose job was inventing things that other people would find entertaining and absolutely enjoyable. Disney, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg. I was a 70s kid. I was just fascinated with this whole notion that you could literally have a career being a creative. And I didn't know what it was called. My mom, I actually know for a fact, the first movie I remember seeing was Fantasia in a theater, probably at age 6, something around there. And I just couldn't believe what I was watching, which, things like The Sorcerer's Apprentice, but also the Rite of Spring piece with the dinosaurs. And then, of course, the Night on Bald Mountain piece with a big demon at the end. I absolutely was blown away with this. And I asked my mother, of course, who made this? And she said, well, that's, Walt Disney. He built Disneyland. And I'm like, well, then I want to know everything about what this person, who he is, how he did it, how he made this a career. And I thought that was so fascinating from a very early age.
So did you immediately say, okay, I want to get, like, take it on as a hobby, learning all about it? Like,
Yeah.
were you like staying up late at night with a flashlight, reading about Walt Disney? Were you doing book reports on Walt Disney?
I mean,
was
like
he your
many,
hero?
Many kids, I think, at that era were growing up reading magazines about how they, like, the birth of ILM. But no, I just grew up reading about this business of entertainment that was transforming, in front of me as a young kid. And just found myself so fascinated that this could be a job that I could actually somehow, someday, make this a career for myself as well. And I think that is really what led me to this place where technology intersects with entertainment.
So a lot of kids in the 70s, I'm a 70s kid, same age, and it was like all about sports. I wasn't thinking about career entertainment. That it was like, how do I have fun? How do I play sports?
Yeah.
Like, were you a normal kid growing up? Because I always think, like, what are you associated with? What are the things that are around you? You're in California, which seemingly is a more creative. That's where Hollywood is. There's so many different creative industries out there. Sure.
I had no idea. My dad and my father, and they were in the medical business, in the medical industry, and so he had no real connections to the entertainment entertainment industry, or really just even like advertising agency, anything like in that realm. So I didn't really have any connections, but he did get, as kind of a little bit of a technophile himself, and he bought we had a Super 8 camera, and then he had bought one of the very first VHS camcorder systems. Actually, it was the one where you used to have to carry the deck on a strap
of course,
with the handheld camera. And when I found that, I would sneak out and just make movies.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until later in life that I saw USC Film School as a route to get into the business of it, and then actually found that when I started, I interned there before I joined or went, and realized that actually it's much more of a tech school or craft. But it was at that time much more about the craft. In terms of like, you're going to pick your lane.
Yeah.
You're going to be an editor. You're going to be a cinematographer. And I was really...
What is it about being a filmmaker?
It wasn't or a generalist. And so at that point, I decided I didn't want to go and then went and studied in Europe, and then studied theater and acting and really just kind of broadened my creative knowledge.
So you were an actor?
Nah, no, not really.
Will we find Chad in a Lucky Charms commercial, which would be incredible?
No.
Is there anything, did you star in anything that would be notable?
No. But I was doing plays. I was doing theater. So it was, mostly stage productions.
Summer stock, a lot of summer stock. So Chad, we're going to jump to a little bit of the first company. I mean, maybe this is where, like, your stealing of the camcorder and going outside and filming things. You started your first company, 8 Cylinders, that you brought broadcast quality visuals to the web. Let's explain, because I think people don't quite realize, back then this stuff was so new. The internet was so new to us. I mean, it's pretty much what everybody's experiencing now with AI, is like we're in the middle of these revolutions.
It was interesting. I started programming and started playing with computer graphics in the late 80s. And by the time I finished art school, and I had a number of friends who were at Art Center at the time, and we all saw what the birth of the internet. Remember the AOL CDs, 5,000 free hours, 10,000 free hours, all those. But I thought AOL looked like a coupon book at best. It was fascinating because AOL, although it was so popular at that time and it was growing, it looked like it was QVC. It was like the home shopping network of visual design. And so some of my friends from Art Center and I, we said, let's actually go out and show basically what an AOL page could look like. And so we started this little company even before 8 Cylinders called Paradigm, that we were building essentially some of the first, again, lack of a better term, some of the first web pages via AOL, and making it look much more like a magazine editorial spread, photography, beautiful typography on an archaic platform in 94, 95. And then we kind of, at that time, we didn't know what it was called, but then we got acquired. And then through that company is when I said, there is this real-time technology that's growing. If you remember, like the first Doom and Quake and some of those early 3D games, John Carmack and id Software and some of those early days, right at the beginning of the PlayStation timeframe, pre-Xbox. But what I found was that there was all these real-time 3D engines out there, but they're not doing what look like television production 3D, where it really is more of a broadcast style presentation. And we basically built this real-time engine that could stream to through the web and create basically a real-time 3D website, essentially.
So who buys that? Because it seems like that's the first company somebody will want to buy. It's such a innovation.
Yeah. So we were funded essentially by Intel, because Intel at that time had done a research study where, do you remember the old days? It's like that dun 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 dun, Intel Inside and that whole campaign to it's the Intel chips, of course. So one of the things they found though was, I think it wasn't even in the top 5 reasons to buy a faster CPU was to surf the web or to get better web experience. And they realized that people didn't think of the CPU, or really ultimately the CPU plus GPU at that time, being a part of the internet experience. So how do they do that? Is they show what the future web would look like.
So you've worked in so much tech and worked with so many big names in tech. Like, what are some of the names that really stick out for you of people and companies that you've worked with? And what are some of the lessons, that maybe aren't expected answers that people might not know when you work with some of these companies and these people?
Well, one of the highlights I would say was my experience working with Sir Richard Branson and Virgin, which
nobody loves Richard Branson. I've used him 5,000 times in presentations of like the charming provocateur. We buy what he's selling because we trust him and like him. And
he's so authentic.
How did you work with him?
So in 2004. They wanted to create Virgin Games, and Virgin Games at that time was the English. Basically, the government had deregulated interactivity through televisions, through smart televisions, so you could actually play games. So you could play Monopoly, or pick your favorite, chess, and so forth, and play it through the television. But at that point, they were still very primitive, and they were just basic, almost like shareware games. And he wanted to bring it up to another level, like Sir Richard does in many of his aspects in terms of, airlines or cruise lines and hotels and so forth. So he wanted to make
record stores and Virgin Records. I mean, for those who don't know, that was one of the coolest experiences going to Virgin Records in New York City. It was just so badass. And London.
It was amazing. So working with him and seeing how he built, I had not had a lot of experience in terms of a company that incubated, brought in people, said, let's have you take a few months, invent what this thing could look like through the Virgin kind of lens, through our kind of corporate values and brand, build it up, then we'll fund it as the initial seed, essentially, company that's giving it its original capital or a starting capital. And then you use that as the platform then to go raise additional cash, and then you let it set sail. And I just thought that was so, in 2004, I didn't grow up in Sand Hill Road or the VC community. So to me, that was such a fascinating way to see, again, a massive promoter of just...
what was he like as a person? I've never met, I've met some people that have met him or had a dinner with him, but to work with him, what was he like as a boss?
I think he was very much a Super Bowl in that he had 1,000 things going on at once. While we were doing that, we were also founding Virgin America. So you would every once in a while, you'd hear his assistant on the phone, yes, Governor Schwarzenegger, we'll have Sir Richard will be joining you in one moment. How is it in California? And you're just listening to these conversations what reality am I in here?
He would be my dream guest, besides Chad, who's my current dream guest. But if Richard Branson, if you're ever wondering, Alex, who to try to get, it's Richard Branson. He literally is like my hero in the business side and the creative side. So I'm going to jump now to the world of golf, because it's called Screaming Creativity, but golf is not always seen as a creative game.
I enjoy and appreciate the sport.
I am that guy who doesn't play golf, but somehow got a hole in one by luck. I would always ask, what club do I use? That annoying person. And my friend Devin's like, just keep your head down. Don't lift your head up. And I did, and it went in the hole. So they went crazy. The people I were playing with.
What did you sign the ball? Did you keep the ball? What
Well, it was part of a tournament, and I went into, and then it was all these like rich franchisees from fast food. I was speaking at some conference, and I went in, and there was like the big sort of celebration lunch. They're giving away best scores, and they all start laughing at me because they're like, "Oh, that's the guy who got the hole in one," and I'm dressed like Happy Gilmore. So they started booing me that I got the hole in one, and they said I was too cheap to pay the money to win the $5,000. If I would have given the guy at the desk by the hole $20 for junior golf, I would have won $5,000. But the whole thing was for charity, so I was like, "This is so dumb. Wouldn't I have had to give the $5,000 back to the charity? Like this whole thing is a farce." So you guys. Don't be jealous.
But you got it.
Don't hate the player. Hate
Do you
the
remember
game.
how far was it? Do you remember?
It's probably 173 yards, give or take. A couple elevated door.
Maybe.
By the way, I'm playing, and people said it's not official because I was playing with a range ball because no one wanted to give me the balls. I didn't want to buy any of this stuff. So this is kind of amazing. Sneakers, leather jacket, button-down shirt.
Okay.
I have the outfit. It's a terrible look I have, and
I want to see the photo of that.
the photo. I got one. I do have a photo of it.
See the photo of that.
Yeah, but I was so it is something I feel anytime I meet someone who plays golf, I love telling that story, and they hate hearing the story. So, but to the point of the question, which is, you came up with the idea for World Golf Tour. This is about screaming creativity. This is a creative idea. So tell people what it was, and then it led to you being the chief creative officer at Topgolf.
Yeah. So okay. Long story short, at that time we were in the height of Tiger Woods. Phil Mickelson, that era. Golf was definitely growing and on a high. And what I found was in the video game realm, there was really only one game in town, and that was Tiger Woods PGA Tour by Electronic Arts.
Yeah.
And it was on the PlayStation and Xbox. And if you played those games or that game or that series at that time, it was very easy to get 18 under par, 20 under par, and you could literally control the ball in the air, like by tapping and all these things. And that's why I'm like, this is not a real simulation of golf. This is actually, it's a video game, and that's fine. And then the other side of it was, it still looked like primitive Pixar, like 3D versions of Pebble Beach. You're like, this is not Pebble Beach. And so I had done some work with experimenting with digital photography and some of the early cameras from Canon and Nikon at that time. And I was like, what's interesting is if you could combine the quality of these digital imagery with what I was also reading around at the time was this new laser scanning and topology mapping that you could do. Like if you could take a topo map and laser scan a golf course, and then combine it with a digital photo, then you would actually be able to play golf in what looks like a photoreal version of a golf course. And then anyone in the world could go in and play for free, but then if they wanted to get better, they'd have to buy equipment, just like you would in real life. And if we could make it authentic courses that looked photoreal, I bet we could get authentic equipment, i.e. TaylorMade or Callaway or Nike clubs at that time, Titleist balls and so forth, and then build the true golf simulation, but make it free to play, make it online. And then, so it's kind of the classic thing, easy to learn, impossible to master, just like the sport. So that was the vision, got it funded. Roughly, I think it took us about 3 years to get the product online. And then we grew once we actually got on the iPhone, then we hit about 14 million global players. Now,
So who bought World Golf Tour?
Topgolf bought it.
So how is Chad still sitting here? You keep coming up with these genius ideas. You're very smart. You're an artist, but also understands tech. And that's why this is getting technical, but it's really fascinating to me because you meet a lot of people that are technical and you meet a lot of artists. You don't meet a lot of artists that are also highly technical, which you are. But you seem to be still hustling, Chad. You created this thing called Critters. So maybe explain to our audience. And because I don't think everybody's heard of, within the circles you probably run in, Critters is the I don't know, the Gandhi of interactive films when it comes to
one of the first.
AI, for one of the first ones. I think it was a first of its kind.
Yeah, well, it's definitely the first one made with DALL-E. Some had done some other things with AI tools prior. However, okay, so how it came about.
Explain what it is. I mean, explain to people what it is.
Yeah, so we made a short film. Basically, the pitch of the film, regardless of the AI, the pitch of the film was, imagine a David Attenborough's Planet Earth. He's talking about the characters, these rich the animals.
Chad also does some pretty good characters. He does Attenborough. He did Richard Branson's assistant.
I have a whole repertoire.
Yeah, please.
So anyways, David Attenborough, introducing these little characters, these little critters, and all of a sudden they talk back, and then it becomes more of a Monty Python sketch, and you realize these little critters have their own problems. One's in therapy. There's it's everything that
I have not seen, but I'm seeing it right after this.
Yeah. So he it's a short. It's 5 minutes. It's very much of a almost like a Curb Your Enthusiasm type of sketch where we created a bunch of beats and then we improv'd with our talent. We had a script, we had an outline, we had some goals, but then we let the talent, the voiceover talent that we hired, we kind of just let them play. And then I took a lot of those themes and obviously edited into the short that exists.
So what was done in AI was all the visuals.
The visuals.
So how is that process? Because I think you say, oh yeah, we made the visuals with AI, but so you had a script, you recorded the dialogue, you had the dialogue track. And then you fed it to DALL-E, or
I would describe a character in terms of the emotional attributes that I was hoping for with the visuals. And one thing that it was, we'll segue a little bit here because this is actually how I got into OpenAI originally. Was when they announced DALL-E 2 in April 2022.
Yeah, a lot of twos.
Yeah, a lot of twos. They basically said, okay, it's text to image, sorry.
Yeah.
And they had shown things like an avocado armchair or the squirrel riding a skateboard in Times Square. And I was like, okay, those are cute. They're that's the party trick. That's the A plus B, let me see C.
Yeah.
But I was curious if what would this tool mean if I was again a Disney or even a Toyota Motor Corporation? Like how would this change literally my business of being, running a creative department. And then number two, I was very curious, would these systems be able to simulate something that would capture human emotion, where I would look at it and, in creating an advertising campaign or even just a line on copy, it's like, do I emotionally connect to this? Does it move me? Does it move me in any way? Or is it just something that's just a pure novelty? And so one of the first prompts I wrote was a red furry monster looks in wonder at a burning candle. And I got this image. I'll show it to you.
Yeah. I've seen that.
Yeah. So, and to me, it wasn't that I love the monster or the rendering. But what hit me was this system is already starting to understand emotions and being able to create or convey an emotion that I can relate to, and I could start to see this a character, not a rendering or a generation let's get into the technical term, an AI image. I was seeing something that just felt much more relatable. And to me, that is what started also the journey with Critters was, okay, let's keep pushing this.
Yeah.
And let's start creating characters and designing characters that are conveying kind of emotional qualities and archetypes and things like that. And that's kind of how I ultimately built up a lot of the visuals and a lot of the characters. And some of the characters didn't make the final cut and some, obviously did and so forth.
So you did that inside of OpenAI. So in some ways, it wasn't like you made the entire thing with AI.
No, not at all.
No, it's like it was just a tool you used.
In fact,
like you combined it with real animation, right?
Yeah, 100%. We did facial performance capture for all the the basically the lip sync, because no one was doing AI lip sync back then. And if you think about the checklist of all the different elements, pre-production, writing the script, obviously editing and all that. Most of it was actually all done by humans, traditional processes.
Yeah.
It was just that we created the visuals.
I think it's good for people to hear because, we're trying to, I think we've been talking about how AI and certainly WPP AI is transforming how we create for all of our brands, all the world's biggest brands. And so much of it is human creativity combined with technology. And this is a great example of it's a great tool for you to use, 100%. But it's more of a hybrid production than it is anything. Dave Rolfe, the head of production for WPP, talks about hybrid production a lot.
But what you do know is these systems there's no magic button to create great creativity. It can create things.
Yeah.
And it can create a lot of duplications or replications of an idea with slight iteration.
Yeah.
But it doesn't know if one is great, one is terrible.
You need the curation, you need the tastemakers.
100%. And even when you do see it create something that's interesting, it would be your skill to say, oh, that's the interesting one. Now let's push that even further.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is why these tools inherently on their own will create a massive amount of content.
I want to make sure that everybody understands what OpenAI is and all the things that are inside OpenAI. Of course, ChatGPT and DALL-E 2 and 3 and 5 and 12, voice technology, Sora, the text to image, the latest product. But what's it like inside of OpenAI? Like, give us a behind the scenes of what it's like to work inside that company. Because I think we're always fascinated about these companies that are really game-changing companies. Like, what was it like? There's that great documentary on Pixar, and you really saw what that was like. So what is it like to be, a creative specialist, which is, an interesting job and certainly title inside of OpenAI? Are you the guy in the corner? They say make cool things, or are you sitting with the engineers? Like,
it's a mixture of both. High level, I would say, I think you realize you're part of something special being there. I think there's some people that are right out of college or even didn't even finish that are, this is they're obviously brilliant and this might be their first job, like truly corporate job. I think maybe at where I've been in life, I can see this as a truly special place.
Yeah.
And to be a part of it at this phase of my career is I look at it as like, how could I have written this any better?
Yeah.
In many ways. With that said, I find that it is a rocket ship, that there are so many things moving so quickly that every day it honestly feels like it's like some sort of Christmas morning, moment where it's like, I don't know what I'm opening up today. Is how do you create ultimately AGI or artificial general intelligence? So not AI being more specific. So self-driving cars, AI, but general intelligence means clearly that it can process not just a specific task, but many tasks, like we can as individuals. But how do we make that better? For the betterment of humanity, and I think as a North Star, that's a very that's a question that you could not answer without speaking of the ethical issues. Because ultimately, back to the question of are the robots going to replace us or
take over the world?
Ultimately, no. We look at it as like ultimately, how does the system or these systems make our lives better? And ultimately, that is really what we're after at OpenAI. Right. And you think about like how often in life can you get any like population of people to do anything in an hour, let alone 1 million? And what came out the stat the other day was after 10 days, we had 130 million people generate over 700 million images. And the only thing I can compare that to in terms of output of creativity, now some of it's terrible, some of it's meme, some of it's derivative and so forth, but there's probably some good things in there too. But be that as it may, we're at the point of the only thing comparable is the camera phone that is producing that much output of creativity every hour or every day. And for us to basically hit what is the equivalent of a cell phone camera or a smartphone camera level of creativity per day, we never even dreamed of that. And that to me is where it's fascinating to be a part of a company that is just setting these records and seeing these benchmarks. But also people having fun. Using it.
I think that's the fun part. I think like one of the points we had a presentation a couple of weeks ago was that we're all creators again. And that those of us in management roles can get back to creativity, can get back to doing the jobs that you started in and getting back to the writing or the creation or the strategy or coming up with, more insights that you maybe, you stop doing because you end up managing people. So I do think there's a real benefit that more people are becoming creators again. And I think it's exciting. But the Sam you talk about is obviously Sam Altman. Again, another person that people don't know. You've seen him in kind of talk shows, and again, whether it's comparing him to, the founders of Google or Mark Zuckerberg, who I've met a few times, and these people that are legendary. I remember I was at a thing with Mark Zuckerberg, and people were grilling him a bit about privacy. It was back when Facebook went through about that, and he had one question to ask. So I asked him the question, "What are you working on now that no one knows about, really, that you're really excited about?" And he answered my question for 25 minutes. Because he was tired of answering maybe
the other questions.
These other questions, and you forget that these people who start these companies, there's positives and negatives. That these are geniuses that are really changing our lives.
Yeah.
So what's Sam like? What's the
I'm probably not the best person to answer this question, but here's what I would say. He definitely is thinking several steps ahead. And I think that's what makes me feel good about where we're going in terms of imagine being, I don't know, let's just say Henry Ford.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, let's say we do get this assembly line and we could produce 1,000 cars every hour. And the demand across the planet they want those many cars. Well, how are we going to fuel these cars? And then says, okay, well, how am I going to solve that problem?
Yeah.
And then figures out the fueling and the refinery and then the distribution of all that fuel. Like that is the level that he thinks at. And I think that is where it's just...
Originally starting with the assembly line. That changed.
Yeah, because if you don't have the GPUs and you don't have the energy and you don't have all these infrastructural systems, security as well, you can't do something that will truly better humanity. So what I think I just appreciate most is just that, I mean, honestly, three-dimensional chess is too much of a stereotype, but the fact that of seeing that strategy and how all those different aspects of the business that you have to address to be able to pull this off successfully.
Which is interesting because you think maybe he's just thinking of more creative ways and more products versus no, he's thinking of the overall ecosystem that this is impacting.
But I do also know one thing that I know at least about him from my brief.
Does Sam play chess? I mean, it'd be interesting.
He does play Halo.
Halo. Oh.
So he is a video game
Halo.
player, and I've had a conversation or been in a room with him when he talks about being able to use these systems to create new worlds that we can, again, entertainment-wise, can all of a sudden go into. And if you think about, say, the video game industry, they're mostly pre-planned. They're giant script trees. It's like if you played Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption, they're amazing storytelling experiences.
Frogger was my game. Frogger. If you guys all know Frogger, that's a good one.
Frogger was great. Inspired Crossy Road, which then also became even also more successful. That said, they are cinematic experiences like Westworld, but they have clearly a delineated beginning and end or dead ends. And in an AI world, those ends can dynamically change based on who you are, your interests, and they can basically become these dynamic stories.
So much more personalized.
And thus it becomes almost, I don't know if it's a new art form entirely or a new type of genre or medium, but it definitely starts to border on somewhere between where games and linear content start to merge in a truly new experiential way.
Well, it sounds just freaking awesome, all of it, to me at least. But let's talk a little bit about the WPP OpenAI partnership. It's pretty new, right? I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
It's obvious why we're excited. It's helping to fuel a lot of our AI, platforms and our own products, and getting to work with obviously the best people. But like, what's in it for OpenAI? Why WPP? Well, not to put you on the spot there.
Yeah, no, I think, well, look, how do most people interact with brands and companies? Well, and what's the brand image, or how does that brand communicate to their potential customer or their current customers? And you know this better than anyone, and how to do that, and how to actually shape culture, and how to define the face of the company, the identity of the company, positioning the company globally, et cetera. For us to not to be part of that conversation and to be part of that process would be a massive misstep. And honestly, corporations, in terms of the products we use, I mean, look, from Coke, the drinks that we choose to drink or the cars we choose to drive, that is part of our identity. That is part of our, how we kind of define and what makes us unique, or by the products we buy and the clothing that we wear and so forth. So for OpenAI to not be part of that conversation would be a massive misstep, and to not be a part of a company that is leading those conversations with those brands creatively, ultimately from a brand perspective to ultimately then how do they build a strategic campaign, and then how do they produce those assets?
Yeah.
Like we want to be part of that conversation.
You forget how much brands are part of culture more than 100%. Ever. And, and young people will choose brands based on the associations those brands have and the innovative ways they're getting to them, and technology is going to play a major role in that too. So,
don't you think what I think is interesting, and again, from your career, I'm curious, and I'll switch the table here for a second.
Please.
Which is,
I'm a great guest of my own podcast.
But aren't you finding, we're seeing how quality and authenticity has changed, and production value is not necessarily what a younger audience or today's audience values as much as more genuine immediacy and what seemingly comes across as more authentic, because maybe it's low production values and so forth. But I'm curious to see how you've seen some of the shift be, because I'm looking at how AI can play a role in that. And to me, that's a very fascinating thing where you still want to have that authenticity. Yeah. You want to still have creators.
I think, I don't know. I mean, I'm obsessed with this thing called junk box AI, where they take sort of famous TV shows and movies, the characters from them, and turn them into toddlers. But it's so incredible. It just makes me laugh. So I feel like it's opened up a new form of humor. That would have cost $1 million to do with CGI, and now however they're doing it, and I think we can probably do a version of it. We've had some fun with it. I think more and more we want to see, and I think we do. I think you'll be happy if the message is great. I think people don't care as long as it's entertaining or informational or empowering. It's hitting me with some kind of emotion. So if it's high level production or low level, I think AI is allowing a lot more things to be better produced in the long run. So I think you're going to see on the internet, this Junkbox AI platform is a perfect example of like, this is just fun things you're seeing on TikTok. And it's like, I can't wait to see what they're going to do next. I just saw they did one with The Sopranos. They've done Entourage, they've done Star Wars, they've done all these things. You're like, I can't get enough of it. So I think it's more about quality of content versus the quality of the production, because it's only getting get better. So you better have a good idea.
And now that's like trending on our social.
It's like really unlocked a new form of entertainment and new humor that is quicker and more accessible, 100%. And we can keep making more of it. Chad, I want to make sure we have time to do what we call rapid fire.
Oh, good.
Last song you listened to?
Oh gosh, last song.
Chad has not seen these questions before.
No, it was on the plane. What was the last song? It was. I was listening to.
Frozen?
Actually, no. No. I think it was. I was on a yacht rock station on my playlist on the plane coming home.
I love
coming to New York last night. I think it was Doobie Brothers. What's the Fool Believes? I think. What's that song?
Fool Believes.
Yeah. So I'm aging myself here. But I just spent a weekend in Mexico for a little spring break thing, and there was definitely
Cabo San Lucas.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
like
there was
Senior Frogs.
No, I didn't
with
go
dollar.
But there was definitely some yacht rock cover bands, and so I just kind of got in this yacht rock.
Yeah, there's some great songs. Doobie Brothers, great songwriters.
Doobie Brothers, and I'm pretty sure it's like what a fool. Yeah.
It's a great song. Doobie Brothers, great. You know what?
Old school. Deep cut.
Listen, it's a deep cut. A deep cut. Okay, what's your secret hidden talent? You've got a lot of talents, so what's a secret hidden talent that maybe you didn't divulge?
I have not divulged. I don't do it as much anymore. I mean, in my earlier days, I was a pretty active karaoke performer.
That one of the songs that we're going to combine this now is, what's your go-to karaoke song?
Yeah, no, there was a period where there's in Japantown in San Francisco. Every karaoke bar has the karaoke book.
Yeah.
And then they have this one that's the locals book, and there's it's basically it's a notebook, and then you write your songs, and it's your go-to songs. And I went back recently, and and the bars changed owners. And I'm
Yeah.
like, do you still have those old karaoke books? And they're like, oh, yeah. And they pulled it out, and my page was still there. And I have a rules of karaoke too, by the way. I have 5 rules of karaoke, and they was all still in there. I was so happy to see.
Do we have time for 5 rules? I want to hear the song. You haven't divulged the song.
I have my warm-ups. I mean, it's easy. Yeah. It was always so easy. But
you guys going to have a whole set.
But it was always Sweet Caroline just to warm up the crowd.
Yeah,
it's easy.
It's easy.
Easy.
It's not that easy that you think it is.
But, gets the pipes going. And gets the crowd going. And then I would usually come in with either a John Cougar Mellencamp, Jack and Diane.
Pink Houses, maybe? I've done Pink Houses.
I have not done Pink Houses.
It's a good one.
But then hit 'em heavy with Billy Idol, Rebel Yell.
Well,
old school.
Sings high. High.
Well, but you get on your knees at one point. You do a knee slide.
Yeah.
It gets the crowd going.
Okay. All right. So song what's 4?
Then last. Usually now you're at the end of the evening.
Yeah.
You're getting into the posts, and so
the encore. If you will.
I mean, there's been a couple that have come and gone. My sister and I would do Wild Horses, Stones.
Oh,
we sometimes do even
sweet ballad.
Snow. What's it called? Chasing Cars was a thing for a minute.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not going to.
It sounds like we've struck a chord here.
Yeah.
The 5 rules of karaoke, is that what it's called? The 5.
No. My 5 rules of karaoke are no one wants death metal.
Yeah, fair enough.
Also, if you're two guys and you were in a frat together and you think it'd be great to go up and do Aladdin or Little Mermaid, no.
Okay,
Just
agree. These seem obvious, but yes, good to remind people.
Number 1 and number 2. No one wants that stuff.
Yeah, number 3.
You cannot do rap unless you know the lyrics.
And then that's 3 or 4.
Yeah, so the quick 4 and 5. Most people think they have to yell into the mic. Don't. The mic is there for a reason. Just let the mic do the work. No one wants to hear a yeller.
What do you mean, Chad?
Yeah. And then lastly, you don't have to be a great singer, but make it memorable. Go up there and do a performance. Just wow the crowd. I mean, if you go there and just stand, but do something different.
Folks, if you get anything out of this, forget AI, forget OpenAI, forget world top golf, top golfer, forget it all. Forget my hole in one. Chad's 5 rules of karaoke, which seem pretty obvious. Okay, we're going to keep going here. Yeah. This is my favorite new question we do, which is best compliment you've ever received. Don't overthink it.
I got a compliment recently. I do a number of bits speaking and going out and when I started
and voices and
But when I showed Critters, this was at Tribeca, and someone came up to me afterwards and told me that they came to this event armed with questions because they wanted to basically rip me a new one for destroying creativity, blah blah, and all these things. And he said, I just watched your panel, and I asked you, and he was one of the people that asked me a question, and he said, and I walked away, and I realized the problem actually wasn't AI or you or the industry. It's actually me. He's like, I realized that I am not looking at this the right way. I'm not looking at it
exactly.
And to me, that was just, I say not the best compliment, but at least
that's
the most
awesome compliment.
Because that is what we do have a lot of change, and that's the thing that's happening with this AI landscape. Is there is so much change that people don't know how to process it, and we all know this human nature and change. But it's
scary sometimes.
It is.
Yeah.
But if you can start to really understand it and see how a creative is using it, what it can do and also what it cannot do, it might shift your thinking and actually inspire you to go and try it yourself. And I think that's what it made me feel happy that this was a person that was coming in clearly in a very negative place and left actually at least in a more positive. Yeah.
That's an awesome answer. So I will use that because it's very much how we think of our role using AI within WPP. It's all about embracing the change and, the new level of creation for our clients. Okay, if you could hang out with one fictional character, who would it be? I bet it's somebody from the Disney world.
No. I mean, I grew up with James Bond and Indiana Jones, so just if I could literally go hang out with Indiana Jones for a day or James Bond for a day, that would be like...
Yeah, we've got a bunch of James Bond, but Indiana Jones is a good one.
Yeah, no, I just like the idea of the adventure of what Indiana Jones represents. That, and also, as I get older, I start really appreciating history and just that whole, what we leave on the planet, what we leave behind. I think is fascinating, and especially in a digital world, which I'm not sure how much is going to be left behind.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even just your photos, I was thinking of where are all my photos? Like, I got like one case of photos, and then all are all digital. But like, I'm sure I don't even know where they are. They're in the cloud somewhere.
Yeah,
with my head. 3 items. This is if you could only answer one of this, but you seem to have many rules, 5 rules of karaoke. Like 3 items on your bucket list.
3 items. I have not skydived. I want to at least try something where I fly out of a plane.
It's deadly.
Yeah. Well,
can you trust these things? Get some guy
either way. At a certain point in life, it's a glorious way to go. If it's going to be it,
it's not. It sounds like the worst way to go. Imagine hitting the ground at 1,000 miles an hour. Like seems like a terrible. Like
I don't know.
Eaten by a shark is probably the second worst. But like knowing you're going to hit the ground, you got about 30 seconds. It's like okay, I guess I'll call my mom.
Actually, but would you really know? Because the guy behind you, it's not like I'm going to go. Like I'm not jumping solo. I'm going to.
But you maybe want to decide you want to learn skydiving, and then you eventually jump solo.
Well, at that point, I'm not going to. No. Yeah. At that point, that is a
why put your. I always think why put yourself in. I'm not saying I don't take risks, but why put yourself in? Clearly, it's like a hot air balloon. Mm-hmm. Who's running that show? You know, like who's running the hot air balloon show? I don't trust them. All right, that's one item.
That's one. Another bucket list. Actually, I'm working on. I want to make an animated feature film. So I'm actually we just optioned Critters to become an animated feature.
Congratulations. So, and third.
Third.
You're already on my podcast, though.
Yeah. No, I got that one. Yeah. I don't have a goal like climbing Everest or anything like that, but I want to say at least something physical as my last one. Which
you want to defy death with skydiving?
Yeah, that's just an adventure. That's just thrill seeking. No, I would like to do like Kilimanjaro or at least a big summit before.
A hiker. You're a hiker.
Yeah, I do like to hike.
My wife loves hiking. Yeah. I hate hiking. I find it to be. There's nothing at the top. You know, if there was a bar there or something, some reward.
The Swiss do have places at the top.
I'm sure they do.
You go to the Alps. Yeah. The Alps have plenty of things up top.
Yeah, true. Okay, if you weren't doing this as a career, what would you be doing? Now, you've had many careers, but it's something you hadn't done before. What would be a thing you don't think you're going to do, but if you could, you would?
If I didn't have to worry, I mean, obviously I don't know how I would turn this into a financial career at this point in life, but I would love to actually just be a travel photographer. I would love to go out around the world and just and document and take pictures and capture the people and the environments and the culture that you see every day in these places that you've never been before. I think that would be amazing.
Good answer. Haven't heard that one before, so that's good. Okay, last one piece of advice you'd give to your teenage self, Chad. Teenage Chad.
I.e. my younger son. I would say take more risk while you're young and while you don't need to make any money or you have no expenses, because later in life, it's much more difficult to do so. I would literally, if I were coming out of college right now, I'd go find the most innovative startup I was reading about. Pick one of your tech journals or blogs, et cetera, and just say, hey, figure out how to go work there, and just even if you have to work for free for a bit, because you can, and get that experience.
Go work at Open Evidence. That's the one I'm behind.
I mean, there are definitely. I mean, look, every week Silicon Valley's funding a handful. Some are I think better than others. But honestly, I would literally tell my son, go pick a robotics company that's going to redefine our world, and just get there.
You have been pretty magical. So thanks for coming.
This has been amazing. I love this conversation. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
You got it.
Married to the game, I'm super loyal, holding matrimony.
Screaming Creativity is directed by Jonathan Sanchez, produced by Alex Davis Isaac and Adrian Chan, edited by Ogilvy, designed by Dave Towers and Martina Stisi, and music by Tax Free Nevada and Cleveland Thrasher.